the organ harvesters of the border zone. Episode 2, The Ones Who Disappear. The van was just a doorway. Most people who heard that truck driver's story thought it ended with him. A strange night, a medical van that shouldn't exist, a smell nobody wanted to think about for too long. But stories like that don't fall from the sky. They grow out of something. If you follow them far enough back, you always find the same thing waiting. People who disappeared, and a system that pretended not to notice. The official numbers are clean. You'll find them on glossy PDFs, on charity websites, in small, neat tables, sorted by year and region. Missing in transit. Unaccompanied minors lost in movement. Presumed crossings. Such gentle words. Tiny labels pinned over something that looks very different when you stop looking at numbers and start looking at names. A mother doesn't say her son is lost in movement. She says he was here, and now he's not. Some months after the van story entered my archive, I started comparing lists. Not because I wanted to, because someone pushed them under my door. No return address, no signature, just a brown envelope with photocopies inside, local flyers with faces and first names, church bulletins asking for prayer, grainy photos pulled from old phones, handwriting that gets shakier the further you read down each page. On the last sheet, a note in English. You collect stories. Collect this. So I did. I cross-referenced the handwritten names with press articles, police databases, NGO reports, the kinds of spreadsheets you're not supposed to see unless you're on the inside. And a pattern started to form. They weren't tourists. They weren't elderly. They weren't sick. They were almost all the same, male and female, young, healthy, working age, strong hearts, fresh lungs, intact kidneys, the kinds of bodies that show up in the ideal donor fields of medical guidelines. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just telling you what they had in common. One case kept resurfacing in different formats, sometimes as a name in a list, sometimes as a worried post on a forum, sometimes as a single sentence in a regional newspaper that never saw a second edition. 23 years old, we'll call him Mateo. He left with a small group, relatives, neighbors, people from his district who'd heard there was work on the other side. Fields to pick, construction sites, kitchens. The path they chose wasn't official. None of them could pay the official way. They followed a guide someone's cousin swore by. There's always a cousin, always a man who knows the route. It was supposed to be 2 nights walking, 1 river crossing, then a pickup truck hidden among the scrub to carry them the last leg. They never reached the truck. At least, not the one they thought. Out of 9 people, only 1 came back. He wasn't supposed to. He wasn't even supposed to be alive if you believe what they did to him. He told his story once to a small volunteer group that documented abuses in the border zones. The recording is rough, wind scraping against the microphone, dogs barking in the distance. His voice sounds far away, like he's watching his own memories from across a wide, empty room. He lost weight. He lost years. He never lost his fear. We'll call him Luis. According to Luis, they were 3 hours from the river when they first heard the engine. It wasn't the roar of a big diesel, more like a low, even hum, smooth, purposeful, not the sort of vehicle that struggles. The guide froze when he heard it. That was the first bad sign. Guides are supposed to have answers, pre-planned lies. It's nothing. They don't come here. Get down and stay quiet. This one just turned his head, eyes wide, like a deer that's just remembered it's made of meat. The group ducked behind rocks, brush, whatever they could find. No one spoke. No one moved. The hum grew louder, then stopped. Lights swept over the scrub, the white-blue kind you see in operating rooms and interrogation videos. Luis says they heard boots in the dirt, more than one set. Heavy, coordinated, not drunk, not bored, working. Voices followed, not police, not the accent of local farmers. Something clipped, clean, almost professional. One word came up several times in the recording while Luis was trying to repeat what they'd said. Cargo. Not people. Cargo. They were found within minutes. The guide tried to run. It didn't go well. Luis remembers the sound the baton made more than the impact. A dull, wet knock, like someone hitting a sack of flour. After that, everyone did what they were told. Because when a man in gloves with a flashlight in your eyes tells you to get on your knees, and you can hear the click of a rifle safety somewhere behind you, you stop believing you have choices. They took their phones first, not to steal them, to remove them. Bags were sorted into piles. IDs collected, rubber banded, dropped into a container. Luis remembers being lined up and told to look straight ahead, one by one, as a woman with a tablet walked past them. She checked off boxes. Male, female, approximate age, visible health. She didn't ask names, didn't ask why they were there. She only spoke once to the man standing beside her. Luis doesn't know which language they used, but the words "good stock" are clear in the recording. They were told it was a routine check, that they'd be processed and let go. Processed is a strange word for people in the desert at night. 2 vehicles waited beyond the ridge. One was what you'd expect, a rough truck with a covered bed, local plates, dust smeared, good for smuggling things no one will miss. The other wasn't. Shiny white, smooth sides, no markings, medical grade. The group was split. 5 people were directed toward the truck, 4 toward the van. Luis was one of the 4. He says he doesn't know why. Maybe it was random. Maybe it was not. Maybe some of them matched a list. He remembers the interior of the van more as sensation than detail. The cold hit first. Not the night air kind of cold. The Freon throat catch of refrigeration. Something designed to keep things fresh, not people comfortable. He saw metal. He saw straps. He saw the faint outline where something had stood or lay for a long time, leaving impressions in padded material. He refused to look at the floor. They were told to sit. Told it was safer inside. Told the check wouldn't take long. When the doors closed, the hum returned, higher pitched this time, vibrating through the walls. For a few minutes, they tried to talk. One woman prayed under her breath. Another tried to make a joke and ended up choking on it. Luis stared at the ceiling and counted his heartbeats. Then the light changed. He said it went from white to a sickly, filtered tone, like someone had thrown a thin sheet over the sun. Something hissed. The air seemed to thicken. He doesn't remember anything after that for a long time. The interview transcript skips 11 minutes. When he comes back, everything is different. He's flat on his back, not on a stretcher, on metal, no cushioning, no kindness. There's a pressure on his chest, something tight around his right arm, a sucking feeling in his throat like he's been breathing through a straw for too long. He tries to move and realizes his wrists are restrained. The soundscape is medical, but wrong. No beeping monitors, no ambulance chatter, just the clink of metal instruments, the faint chime of glass vials, the mutter of low voices, and under it all, the rhythmic thump of his own pulse pounding in his ears. He keeps his eyes closed. That might have been the only choice he made that night. He hears someone say a word he'll never forget. Harvest. He's not fluent in their language, but that word doesn't need translation. It belongs on farms, in fields, paired with crops, or apparently with people. There's a hand on his chest, fingers pressing along his ribs, counting. Another voice says something like, "Good shape and no scars." He feels tape on his skin, cold swabs, the drag of a marker drawing lines he'll never see. Then someone says a number, not his name, a number. He waits for the pain. It never comes. He feels pressure. He feels movement. He feels them doing something to his arm, to his side. But it's far away, as if they've moved his body to another room and left his mind behind. Sedated enough not to scream, not enough not to remember. At some point, one of them notices his eyes aren't fully closed. He hears a soft click. The chemical taste in his throat deepens. The lights behind his eyelids bloom into something bright and shapeless. He slides under. When he surfaces again, it's raining. He's on the roadside, the real roadside this time, not the desert, not a camp. A highway drainage ditch with plastic bottles and weeds. He's still alive. That's the first shock. The second is that nothing hurts the way he thought it would. His chest aches, his head spins, his right arm is bandaged from elbow to shoulder. There's a heaviness in his gut he can't explain, but nothing is open, nothing is screaming. Whoever did whatever they did wanted him intact. For now, there's a card in his pocket, white, plastic, no name, just a QR code and a single line of text in a language he barely knows. He shows it during the interview. The volunteers scan it on a cheap phone. The code leads to a web portal meant for doctors. The welcome text is in English this time. Donor registry. Post-operative follow-up. Luis doesn't remember registering. He doesn't remember giving consent. He doesn't remember arriving at any clinic. Yet, according to that portal, he has an ID number. He has a file. The file confirms that one of his kidneys is no longer with him. He didn't know for sure until that moment. His hand flies to his side while they read it. He swallows a sound that wants to be a scream. The portal shows a surgery date, a survival probability. A field for donor compensation left blank. It also shows the destination, transplant facility, external client. Country redacted, hospital redacted, surgeon redacted. Just a cost bracket. High, very high. Luis was not supposed to see that page. Donors don't normally wake up in ditches. They don't normally live long enough to find volunteer groups with second-hand laptops and cheap internet. They don't normally become witnesses. Yet here he is, breathing into a microphone, telling people sitting in a cramped room with peeling paint that yes, there was a white van. Yes, there were professionals. Yes, this was not some back alley butcher with a kitchen knife. It was organized, clinical, efficient, harvest, not murder, at least not immediately. You might ask, if there are so many missing, why aren't there more survivors like him? That's a fair question. Maybe there are. Maybe most of them don't talk. Maybe some tried and were told, very politely, to stop. Or maybe he wasn't supposed to survive at all. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they assumed his body would fail before he could cross a border, reach a phone, spell out what external client means. Or maybe someone let him go. You'll find as we continue this story that there are cracks in the machine, patterns of mercy that don't fit with profit. Every chain has a weak link. Every structure has a point where someone has to look another human being in the eyes and decide whether they're cargo or something else. Sometimes they choose wrong. Sometimes they choose human, and that's when stories leak out. Like a white van in a ditch, like an ID number on a donor registry that was never supposed to exist, like a scared man in a cramped office, showing strangers the scar the surgeons left behind and whispering, "I think they were going to come back for the rest of me." When I mapped the disappearances along that route, names, ages, last known locations, and overlaid them with unofficial reports of unmarked vehicles, routine checks, and temporary roadblocks that never made it into any log, the clusters almost aligned. Not perfectly, just enough to make you wonder why people keep vanishing in the same corridors where ghost vans and medical transports drift in and out of existence. Next episode, we'll talk less about the ones who vanish and more about the companies that make a great deal of money when they do.